For more than 2 centuries, the Persian Empire was the most powerful military and political entity in the world until the Greek king Alexander of Macedonia conquered this enormous empire in just a few years. However, he did not enjoy it for long, as he died in 323 BC in Babylon. Alexander's main generals clashed with each other, giving rise to the so-called Wars of the Successors, or Wars of the Diadochi, bloody and savage conflicts that would last for centuries. Seleucus was one of these Diadochi, and the truth is that the chances of emerging victorious from such a conflict were very slim, as he did not possess any lands and had only a little more than 2,000 men loyal to him thanks to a promotion during Alexander's conquests. So Seleucus, a corpulent and brawny man, was forced to play a secondary role for quite some time. The war began when the general Ptolemy, who was governor of Egypt, stole Alexander's body when it was being taken to Macedonia to be buried there. At first, Seleucus supported Perdiccas, who was initially the most powerful Diadochi. However, after leading a poorly planned invasion of Egypt, Perdiccas was assassinated by his own men. In the Second War of the Diadochi, that followed shortly after the peace was interrupted for a short time, Seleucus sided with his old friend Antigonus Monophthalmus, who replaced Perdiccas as the most powerful Diadochi. Antigonus appointed Seleucus as satrap of Babylon, where the local population held him in high esteem, and Seleucus was the only prominent senior officer who remained married to his Persian wife Apama, while the rest of the Greek officers broke off their mixed marriages as soon as Alexander died. Some believe that Seleucus kept his Persian wife out of love, while others claim it was a strategic calculation. But whatever the reason, the truth is that maintaining this marriage and having the support of a native noble family was a very valuable asset that the rivals of Seleucus overlooked. He even claimed that his wife was the daughter of Darius himself, which made his son the legitimate heir to the former Persian Empire. Because of this, Antigonus, seeing the popularity Seleucus was gaining, began to perceive him as a threat, and Seleucus fled to Egypt. Once there, Ptolemy gave him protection and later an army. But Seleucus used that army to conquer Babylon, where he established an independent government in 312 BC. He then carried out a series of campaigns on his eastern borders, and while he was there, he lost Babylon. After a 2-year war with Antigonus, Seleucus conquered Babylon, and then peace was signed. His authority was firmly established during a period of 4 years, transforming his territory into a full-fledged empire. This brought the Seleucids into contact with another rising power, the Mauryan Empire of Chandragupta. The truth is that not much is known about the war between the two empires, but in any case, the Greeks were expelled from the Indian subcontinent. After this, a peace agreement was negotiated that recognized Maurya's gains, and a strong alliance was formed with a diplomatic marriage between Seleucus's daughter and the Indian king. In exchange, Chandragupta provided a formidable force of 500 well-trained war elephants. These elephants were crucial 2 years later in defeating Antigonus at the Battle of Ipsus. After the battle, the Seleucid Empire enjoyed more than a decade of peace, during which time Seleucus was able to establish his new capital, Seleucia, a city built near Babylon that quickly eclipsed the old city. After Ipsus, Seleucus allied with Demetrius, the son of Antigonus Monophthalmus, and married his daughter, who was 40 years younger than him. At this point, one of the strangest events in history took place. Apparently, Seleucus's son Antiochus fell madly in love with his stepmother, and seeing this, his father Seleucus, who felt pity for the young man, allowed him to marry his stepmother, with whom the old king had had a son. This was scandalous, even by the standards of the time. And of course, Such an insult to Demetrius quickly and inevitably led to war. Initially, Demetrius took the lead, but when his poorly paid troops saw how generous Seleucus was with his own men, Demetrius's forces refused to fight, and he was captured. In 282 BC, Pharaoh Ptolemy died in Egypt, leaving Lysimachus and Seleucus as the two last surviving Diadochi. So obviously, they went to war against each other for one final battle of the elders, a war in which Seleucus won and Lysimachus died in battle. At this point, Seleucus traveled to Macedonia after more than half a century in order to spend his last days there. But once there, Ptolemy's son ended his life, putting an end to the wars of the Diadochi. His son Antiochus reigned for 2 decades in the most peaceful and prosperous period of the empire's history. Early in his reign, he crushed a great Gallic invasion of Asia Minor, partly thanks to the Indian elephants, beasts the Gauls had never seen before. For this victory, he was awarded the title of Soter, meaning savior. He also fought the first of many wars against the Ptolemies of Egypt, as did his son Antiochus II years later. And while he was occupied with this conflict, the eastern half of the empire broke away. The empire continued its clear decline for years with the following rulers. But when Antiochus III the Great took the throne, he reversed the situation and made the Seleucid Empire great again. But near the end of his reign, the Roman Republic defeated him in the west, forcing the Seleucids to pay an exorbitant amount of silver. With this crisis to make matters worse, the eastern provinces revolted. Antiochus died shortly after, and did so without having paid the war reparations to Rome. This forced tax increases throughout the empire and the confiscation of the treasures of the temples. Moreover, with Antiochus IV as king, the worship of the Greek gods became mandatory, which led to the famous Maccabean revolt. Meanwhile, in the east, the Parthians conquered much of Iran, causing the Seleucid forces to be divided into 2 fronts, the Parthian and the Judean. Both failed, and after the death of Antiochus IV, the Maccabees negotiated peace on very favorable terms. And in the east, the Parthians conquered Seleucia in 141 BC. Over the following years, the empire continued to fragment, and by 83 BC, the internal struggle was so severe that one faction offered the crown to Tigranes, the king of Armenia. The empire remained under his control until his death, at which point a new civil war broke out that left the small empire in ruins, being finally annexed by the Roman Republic.